It's been nearly a year ever since coronavirus was discovered, and it has destroyed economies from all across the globe. Now that the vaccination campaign is on a rollout, 1.8 million people have already been vaccinated from 5 different continents. Now we're still dealing with the new reality, the new norm, the new hope in 2021. And while we do so, we get you experts and leaders from different industries to give us their inputs. I'm joined by one such leader this afternoon, and he's none other than Mr. A.R. Khurram. He comes with 28 plus years of experience in industries like FMCG, IT, BPOs, and so on and so forth. He's a people's person. He's led initiatives in coaching and mentoring people all his life. He's led different teams of great strength and numbers, probably more than over 1,000. Let's go ahead and speak to him and get his insights on what the new normal is going to look like. Welcome, Mr. Khurram.
Hello, Nakshi. How are you doing?
Excellent, sir. I wanted to ask, I'd rather begin by asking you this, that there are a lot of people who are graduating from colleges this year, and they're going to be entering the jobs market. Now, while they do so, there are also people who've been made redundant in their existing jobs. Now, these are two different sorts of groups that are trying to get into the jobs segment. What would you advise them how to get back, or how to start and emerge from this cluelessness or predicament after, college is over?
Good question. For any new entrant in the job market, not this year alone, it's always been a predicament. It's always been a little uncertain in terms of what they want to do in life, while whatever their academic qualifications have been, whether those are really going to be put to use or not. So for them, I wouldn't say it's much of a challenge or a difficult task, whereas for the re-entrants, people who are trying to get back into the job market, for them, they would really need to sit down and assess their skills, their strengths, and then jot them down, put that to proper use, and really go out and look for those jobs which suit them the best, because they have some expertise, they have some knowledge, they have been in jobs, they have been performing certain tasks, so they know what they're good at. And for the new entrants, I would always suggest, this is my recommendation to everyone, whoever is looking out for a job seeker, I would suggest that you need to understand what your skills are, what your strengths are, and you need to specifically go for those, and not try to try to build up a resume just for the sake of submitting it for an opening. There are plenty of jobs around in the market, but that does not mean that you're going to be fitting into all of those. So don't try to force fit your resume just to match some job opening that is there, because end of the day, when you attend an interview, you're going to fall flat. The person interviewing you is going to read through it that you actually do not carry that expertise, that knowledge, but you have just filled in a resume, and that gives you a negative feedback or a negative impact in the market. It's better to be able to understand your strengths, work upon those, attend to those interviews or those job openings which actually match your profile. So that becomes easier for you to be able to go out and land yourself a job than to land yourself a disappointment.
Now the prospect of going to a foreign land is very appealing to most youngsters, most millennials, and the most other generations that are coming forward. They love the idea of moving abroad, meeting new people, working with multicultural people, and increasingly with globalization, the meltdown allows us to sort of cross or be in that fluidity. Would you advise people to move out? And if that's the case, do you think, Middle East probably is an option for them?
Any land that you're in, till the time you decide to be in a comfort zone, you're not going to be growing, you're not going to be learning. The moment you decide to step out of your comfort zone, if that comfort zone is your home, you have to step out of it. If that comfort zone is your country, you have to step out of it. If that comfort zone is your state, you have to step out of it. So any place that has become a comfort zone for you, you'll have to step out of that, you'll have to move out of that if you really want to grow. If you want to really achieve something, if you want to do something big, something different, then you need to move out and accept those challenges. Multicultural people, multicultural experiences will help tune you for the future.
So, challenging role vis-a-vis a comfortable role. Which one are you currently in?
The very fact that I'm sitting here having this conversation right here in Qatar goes to say that I have moved out of my comfort zone. I wouldn't say a comfort zone, but then I have taken up the challenge to be away from my family, to be in a foreign land, to be amongst new set of people, new set of organizations, to be working with a different set of clients. That goes to say that I'm here to seek challenges.
So now there's another thing. Why would you choose Qatar in particular? You, with your kind of experience and your kind of expertise, you could have gone to any other country. What makes you decide and be certain about the fact that you want to possibly work in Qatar?
Okay, Qatar, why Qatar is what I understand you would want to know. Qatar has thrown up a huge set of opportunities for people across the globe, because with 2022 around the corner, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of potential for people who want to do something different in their lives. Now, not just for people from this part of the world, but even for people from the other part of the world, from the Western countries, or for people from the European countries, for people from the Americas. Even for those people, there are a lot of potential, there is a lot of opportunities that's coming up in Qatar.
So as an organization, do you look to hire all of these people from different continents?
Yes, we are on the lookout already for people from the European markets, from the Russian market, from varied countries, I would say, because each one of these resources have the kind of skill set, the knowledge, the expertise of having handled mammoth events like what we are going to be conducting or hosting in 2022. Qatar is going to be hosting the World Cup, and that's going to be a mammoth event. For that event, obviously we would require the kind of resources who have done that in the past, who have knowledge of that, who have that expertise to be able to manage those size events. So we are looking at hiring those talent, that potential, those resources, not just for our organization but even for our clients. We are an outsourcing company. We are in the business for more than a decade now, and we have clients within the country, right from the government institutions, who would want to hire these talent because they want to be prepared, they want to give their best. One thing that I have noticed about Qatar is that anything that they do, they want to give their best.
That's correct. I agree. Now, I wanted to know, what about somebody who's just starting out? Would Qatar be still a destination for those people right out of college, let's say, with absolutely no experience? Because we've spoken about people who come with a certain expertise, and of course they could lend in for 2022 World Cup. What about those people who are fresh out of college and they're looking for jobs? What are the legalities involved in such a transition to take place?
The legalities are like any other country where you have to migrate. There are certain norms, there are certain requirements, be it the documentation requirement or your paperwork that needs to be carried out. We as an organization carry that expertise, and we help our resources, our prospective employees, to be able to manage that without having to actually burden themselves or trouble themselves of doing the entire legwork or the paperwork by themselves. We help them with that.
You know, looking back, in my college days, I was wondering, why didn't I find an organization like you? I would have come through you. So I want to look back and sort of reflect on why it wasn't available to me, this knowledge. So this is also one of the reasons that I've called to interview you today, so that we could disseminate this knowledge to all the people who are in different parts of the world and want to make best use of their skill sets that they have. And if that's the case, why would they choose you vis-a-vis going independently on their own?
Okay, independently, yes, that's an option, but not the best option. While all of us have choices to make, but then all of us are wise enough to make the right choice. So why would you want to do something which you are not good at, whereas you have someone who's an expert at it and who can do it for you with ease?
Is there a cost involved in all of this?
Not to the employee. The cost is not to the employee.
That's brilliant.
It's the employer who takes up the cost.
So I see absolutely no resistance why anybody who is wanting a good, successful opportunity not get to you and go through your process of selection. Now, speaking of this, what are the norms of selecting people? Is remote working a thing, or is it still an off-site opportunity?
Remote working has always been there. In my career and this vast experience that I have gained, I have managed processes back home in India for the clients and customers sitting in the US or UK or any other part of the world for that matter. Those are also remote processes that we have managed, and these we have done almost a decade ago.
But do you see office spaces sort of melting into, let's say, individual spaces where people are taking calls from? Or
while technology has grown, technology has advanced, technology has made quite a few things possible, but then the human touch remains, and that carries a vast difference between technology, right? So you need to have those personal touches, you need to have that human intervention. Not everything can be automated, not everything can be done by machines. We have still not reached there. We still have a long way to go to get there.
Yeah.
So for now, as we speak, there is a requirement for people, and that's why we are having this conversation as to how can we help people, right? So not everything is going to get remote, not everything is going to be machines, not everything is going to be online. You will need to get out there and meet people and talk to them and serve them, and that's what we are here for.
So the workspaces haven't really changed, or not likely to change?
They have not become non-existent yet.
Yes. And remote working, as you suggested, was also previously existent.
It's always been there.
What about hiring processes? You've dealt with the finest clients in the Middle East. You know how they hire. What are they on a lookout for? So if I were to write a CV, what are the things that I possibly should highlight?
A CV is basically to highlight your strengths, your knowledge, your skills, and not to try and put something which the other person would like to see. So my humble suggestion to every job seeker is to be honest about what you put on your CV. Just be very clear, very crisp in terms of what you would want the other person to know as your skill, your strength, your knowledge. So it's important that you put down all your strengths, all your expertise on the CV. Spend a little time, try and understand what the other organization is actually looking for. Is that what you are good at? Try to highlight that. Try to make a cover letter which obviously would convey a better message about your professional approach to the whole thing, right? Don't just send in a CV which is more like a leaflet, a pamphlet of some or a flyer. Just don't send a one-sheeter which hardly says anything about who you are, what you can do, what value do you bring to the table. Why is it that the organization should hire you? Whichever organization it is. So try and put in a little effort, try and make it a little more, give that personal touch, try and make it a little more professional for the other person to be able to see some value in you. I feel that's very, very important.
Yeah. Now, when one does seemingly want to etch out details of their professional life onto a paper, is that the only thought of consideration for hiring, or has process changed? Is it during an interview that a person decides, or is it based on a piece of paper, or is it entirely different? Is it a wholesome package that you sort of consider before you decide to call a candidate?
The so-called piece of paper that we refer to our CV or our resume as is what creates the first impression.
Have you had any funny instances that you'd like to think about and tell us? Maybe funny quotes or funny things that you've come across on CVs and resumes that has made you completely laugh and crack about?
I don't look at it as funny.
Okay.
I look at it as pitiful.
Okay.
Because you are a job seeker, you are out in the market looking for a job to find something for yourself, and you have actually not paid attention to it. So it's actually pitiful to me. And that's the reason why I emphasized a bit saying that your resume, your CV should carry some information about what your skills are, what value you're going to bring to the table, right? Because that's very important, and that's the first step to it. So once your resume has been found to be conveying what the organization is looking for, only then do you get to the interview stage. And that's when you actually get to express yourself, convey what is it that you can do for the organization. But if that CV or resume is not really up to the mark, then you might have lost a great opportunity.
Now, do you think people with diverse skill sets also have a market, or do you think specialization is the way to lead forward?
Specialization, yes, it does matter. I wouldn't take away credit from those experts or those specialists who have some kind of an expertise in a particular field or a particular technology or a particular area. But then yes, diverse knowledge or diverse experiences actually add value to your overall profile. Because today's world, organizations are very flexible in terms of their approach. They want their employees also to be flexible. They want to be multifunctional. People who can take up additional responsibilities, people who can take up challenging roles. Whenever the organization needs, you should be able to step in and take that responsibility to say, hey, look, I'm there. I can do this for you. Don't have to worry about it. I can handle this for you. So the organizations are looking at people with that kind of multifarious exposure to different functions, knowledge about how different processes work, right? So it's important that you have that, but not to take away credit from the specialists, the experts who are good at something.
Yeah, and given in a lot of years to their careers. Now, speaking of this, I feel like I want to ask you about the lessons of COVID. I'm pretty sure that all of us can't unlearn the lessons of COVID that has taught us a lot about value system. And we've all sort of redefined our careers, our values in terms of the paths that we're leading on to. So is this lesson learning a thing that you think would pass on to the future? Is it going to be different from the past? Is the new normal going to be a thing, or are we all going to revert back to what we were initially from where we started? This year has been quite different.
Lessons learned, yes. More than COVID, I would say 2020 has been a very good teacher. It has taught us a lot of things. It has taught us not to take anything for granted, not to take your health for granted, not to assume that just because you have wealth, you can do anything in the world. It has taught us great lessons, no doubt about it. Will we get back to what we were prior to what it was like during the pre-COVID era? I don't think that's what it looks like. At least for the next couple of years, I don't see that visibility. But yes, with the vaccines coming around, things are going to get better, things are going to get different. But having said that, any lesson learned is only worth if you remember it for life.
That's rightly said. But as we do emerge out of the pandemic, the question looms large. Are we going to be generous when we do emerge? Or are we going to return back to pronounced tribalism that we are used to as social human animals? Thank you. This is Inakshi Sharma. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Inakshi. Thank you. It's wonderful talking to you.